see you there. I was just doing a little reading. We'll get to that later. I guess since you're here, we might as well do the forecast for the week. The astrology forecast for the week of November 23rd, 2020. This is a week, if all else being equal, which it never is, this is a great week for chilling out, meditating, getting lost in fantasy, doing some meditation. Just a real mellow kind of week to let practicalities sort of slip by the side. That's what this is a good week for, because we begin it with the moon in Pisces and we cap it on the 28th with a Neptune station, and so it's really not a great time for practicalities. It is a time for fantasy. It is a time for spiritual stuff. That's what this week is all about. All else being equal, which it ain't. So what the problem with that whole scenario is that the moon is heading towards a full moon lunar eclipse on November 30th. And as we move towards that, the energy gets increasingly frenetic. We get more and more amped up about things. So, Pisces, instead of being escapist, becomes something more along the lines of being an exaggerating force. The Neptune station, as opposed to a time to just kind of get lost in things, or travel to your astral planes and so on, becomes a bit of a time to have exaggerated concerns. You might think things are much better than they really are. You might think things are much worse than they otherwise would be. Because both Neptune station, 28th, and then 2 days later on Monday, the 30th, the full moon lunar eclipse, both of these things, it's not good for precise speech either. Both of these things tend to sort of create a fisheye mirror that will exaggerate whatever is in there. Right? So the thing that this week is showing you is what's important. That's true. It is blowing it out of all proportion, though. So what is important. The matters that you're seeing are important, but you're not seeing them in proportion. Really, 2 minutes and 50 seconds in, that's all you really need to know about this coming week. If you want a little more detail, it goes like this. Beginning of the week, moon in Pisces, harmonious aspects, but again, not great this time around for doing much of much. Then midweek, moon in Aries, going to be squaring the Capricorn planet. It's really the edginess becomes more apparent at midweek, say Tuesday, Wednesday kind of thing. You have more apparent Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you have more apparent energy there. You're feeling the bristliness a little bit. Then the moon goes into Taurus towards the end of the weekend, and moon in Taurus is always nice. It meets with Uranus, though. So again, we get that pop of energy in an otherwise settled time. And then when we get to the far end of the week, we have at the weekend we have the Neptune station on Saturday, and then the moon goes into Gemini, and we're really right at the eclipse at that point anyway. This is, when it comes to either of these things, or any big astrological aspect, it's always the case that you feel these things beforehand. It's like a holiday, right? Especially in the U.S., like Thanksgiving is coming, or maybe you think about Christmas or something. There's a build towards it. You do the shopping, do the preparation, and all of this. You look forward to it and everything. So you get this build towards it. You have the event, and then you have a little come down from it. You're eating leftovers or whatever that thing is that you do after the holidays. The decorations are still up, that type of thing. So things build up, they peak, and then they sort of trail off. So this week is the build up to the Neptune station, the build up to the eclipse. So you're not really away from those things at any point in time during the week. So this exaggerated energy, which shows you what's important but not in proportion, is going to be the sort of the theme of the week. Of course, there's a lot of stuff going on, pandemic, U.S. election, Brexit. There's a lot of stuff that's going on, which, in dealing with things on the collective level as well as on the personal level, is going to be really messy as things get quite exaggerated. So it would be a good strategy this week, I think, to, do what you can. I'm not saying it's time to, go hide under your bed. Do what you can, but be aware that people are going to be a little extra this week, and you might be a little extra this week. So, or this month, or in 2020, we're all a little bit there. We're all a little bit jangled. And so you want to take a little bit of caution towards things and have a little bit of an ability to step back now and again and do some assessing. Now, as opposed to obsessing. Neptunian word there. Now, the sun is now in Sagittarius, which, of course, as I said last week, this is a great thing having the sun in Sagittarius. It's wonderful. Except the south node of the moon is in Sagittarius, and the sun is not right there just yet, but it's on its way, and the moon will, of course, be aspecting and will be meeting with the south node next week. That's what an eclipse is. Now, the moon will be meeting with the north node. So what we have here is the nodes of the moon showing us where we can fall into a bit of a trap, that's the south node, and where we can kind of dig ourselves out of it, and that's the north node. So the south node is in Sagittarius. Beliefs, dogma, right? The moving towards things that you know are true because you believe them to be true. Whereas the North Node in Gemini is saying you can go get some information. Instead of relying on beliefs, go get some facts. Hence, a book. I get terribly annoyed. You see these Facebook memes that come up about the Electoral College, and I'm just picking this as one thing. I can get annoyed about a bunch of things, but this one thing really annoys me. And you see this thing about, the Electoral College is there to balance out the powers and this with the numbers, and that's a bad argument. And I know people don't like math. And if you don't like to do math, then you're not going to figure out why that argument is silly. But it's also historically unfounded. It was not some sort of brilliant scheme of the Founding Fathers to distribute power. It has to do with the 3/5 compromise, where slaves were counted as 3/5 of a person, and in determining the electoral votes. That's what the Electoral College comes from. And you can find that out if you don't want to read a, say, high school social studies book, because you feel that it might be biased. You can go get the original documents and you can read, and they said right here, when the framers of the Constitution said, this is why we're doing that. You can get facts. You see, facts are not out of reach. Some facts are a little out of reach. Some facts are hard, but you can go to good sources. They're there. It doesn't have to be the great big, echo chamber of social media where people are just throwing ideas back and forth. This is what this means. And you can go get some facts. You could read the facts. If you want to know what's going on, on Sunday mornings in the U.S., we have these shows, Meet the Press and Face the Nation and that type of thing. Not as much fun as watching The Pioneer Woman and all the other cooking shows, but if you want to go get some facts, if you want to see what's going on, if you want to hear what people in the news actually have to say, you can watch them. And, on both sides of any issue, they'll have people on, and they talk about it. This is what I'm thinking. This is what we're doing. You don't have to believe them. You can assume that they have other agendas and so on and so forth, but you can get their words directly from them. And there's a lot of other ways you can go get information. There's a lot of ways to get information that's real information and not so skewed and biased. And you can get a lot of information from sources that are a little skewed and biased and then sort of sort out what's between them. That's all North Node in Gemini. It's all North Node in Gemini. You can get the information. You don't have to rely upon somebody else's interpretation of it. So that's a good project for this week. And it's a good project for this week because, as we will discuss next week, Neptune stations tend to really amplify conspiracy theories. You're not supposed to call them theories anymore, but Neptune stations amplify conspiracy theories, and a lunar eclipse is also, again, that fisheye mirror effect is also great for amplifying conspiracies, which we'll talk about in some depth next week. In the meantime, this week is a week where you want to give people some space, you want to take some space for yourself, you want to see what comes up and recognize it as being important. You want to understand that whether you're in the tunnel of love or you're in the haunted house, it's an exaggeration. This is a week in the amusement park, and there's reality there, but it's probably not the reality that you're seeing. Go get it. Go get the reality, or as close to it as you can. With that admonition, I will see you next week. Got to get those reading glasses they always talk about.